Ladies and gentlemen, my apologies for being about 2 minutes late. Actually looks more like 3 or 4 minutes. My apologies sincerely. Okay, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order of the Ridgecrest City Council at 6:05 p.m. Roll call.
Mayor Bruin,
Here.
Ms. Breeden. Here. Mr. Heyman,
Present.
Mr. Rajaratnam.
Here.
4 present, we have a quorum.
Okay, next on ours is the approval of the agenda for this evening. Are there any changes to the agenda as presented? Hearing none, do I have a motion for approval of the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
I have
Mayor
a
Bruin?
motion second.
Mayor Bruin,
Aye.
Ms. Breeden,
Aye.
Mr. Heyman,
Aye.
Mr. Rajaratnam.
Aye.
4 ayes, motion carries.
We're doing roll call all night, I assume, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, if I can ask everyone to please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Travis, why don't you take this one? Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilman Rajaratnam.
Please join me in prayer. Lord, thank you for giving us this day. Thank you for the responsibility you have given to the City Council. Lord, give your grace, your wisdom, and your humility as we perform our duties. Lord, as we are in the month of September and as we remember the terrorist attacks, Lord, I ask you for your protection for this country, Lord. The world has changed with the 9/11 attacks. Lord, give us your comfort. Lord, thank you for the bravery of those who saved many lives on that day, the firefighters, the rescue crew, the police, the ordinary man, as well as the people on Flight United 93. Lord, they have saved untold number of souls on the earth, Lord. Thank you for the sacrifice which they have done. Lord, I ask you to give your comfort and your protection to the families and friends who lost their loved ones in these attacks. I ask you to give your healing as well as patience who survived the attacks and who has this physical pain or psychological pain, Lord. Lord, help us to be patriotic, but so humbly do we do so. Lord, help us to see the value of life through these attacks. Lord, on that day, Lord, so many people worked and helped each other without caring for race, nationality, wealth, education, or any other discrimination, Lord. They all looked at the humanity and the love for American people. Lord, give us that love, give us that compassion so that we can help each other. And Lord, give us your hope when we have uncertain future. Lord, give us your patience and your grace. Bless each one of us here. In Jesus' precious name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. And welcome to our first meeting of September. Our next item is public comment of items not on the agenda. Persons wishing to address the council on matters that are within the council's jurisdiction and do not already appear on the agenda may do so at this time. Council will not respond to any public comments, but may provide direction to staff to collect information. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council may not take action on any item that does not appear on this agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes, and the public comment section of the agenda is limited to a total of 1 hour. Each speaker is asked to provide his or her name. Is there any public comment?
Are we supposed to state our name or anything?
Just state your name and address helps so we know it's a city resident.
Okay, so my name is Terry Mitchell. I am a resident. I live in the old Dieter section. I don't want to throw my address out there everywhere. I have been meaning to come to a city council meeting all summer, but life got in the way, so this is the first opportunity I have had to attend. I first wrote to the Ridgecrest City Council on my topic in June of 2019. Here we are 3 years later, and I can't believe that I'm having to again bring up this topic. Ridgecrest needs a community pool. The key word here is community. We don't need a huge aquatic center because the likelihood of something like that ever being built is probably non-existent. At a minimum, we need a community pool. Anything above that is nice to have. which, yes, would be nice, but we need something that meets the safety needs of our community. We need a place where the children, and now quite possibly adults, can learn to swim. We have just completed our 6th summer since there has been a community pool in Ridgecrest. There is not an avenue for all the children to be able to learn this life-saving skill. As a former water safety instructor, and I may be biased, but knowing how to swim is probably one of the most important life-saving skills a child needs to learn. No one ever died from not knowing how to play soccer, baseball, basketball, football, or volleyball. Unfortunately, children and adults die not knowing how to swim. Each of you have either been a parent, grandparent, aunt, uncle, or friend to a child. Children need to learn to swim. This way, as they grow into adults, they will have this life-saving skill. What a travesty that we have gone through 6 summers where all of the Ridgecrest children have not had access to swim lessons. As children grow and get around water, they are at risk of drowning. The older they get, the less likely that they will ever learn to swim. Decisions made affect each of these children's futures. I just pray that my concerns about potential loss of life due to not knowing how to swim because swim lessons were not available do not come true. We need to do whatever it takes to get a community pool so this life-saving skill can be taught. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there any other public comment?
My name is Nicholas Coy. I live at 1136 West Langley en route to Fowler School. That's one of the comments I have is school's back in, and my street is a direct route to Fowler School. And I have this constant racing track between the stop signs. We have children that are walking to school, and I hate to see one of them get hit because people take that route to take their children to school and down Upjohn to go to wherever they're going from there. So, I think if they left a little earlier, they wouldn't have to race from one stop sign to the other. If we could get a monitoring device up there to show them how fast they're going, I think they already know how fast they're going, but it'd be nice for them to see that we know. That's my comment for that right now. The other comment I have, I neglected to do last meeting, and it was pointed out to me. We have our veteran stand down coming up the end of this month, the 30th, here at Kermkey. From the look of things, it's going to be bigger and better than it's ever been. We have a lot of people coming from far and wide and long distances to be here for it, to offer something to veterans. We have a lot of veterans in the area that have already established that they're going to be here. So I welcome everybody to come, especially those that are veterans. And if anybody needs information on it, we have coming out the 2 weeks before it on Friday, the Daily Independent's going to be printing a flyer in the paper for us. And Peggy's done her part.
What is the time?
The time starts at 9 o'clock, and it will end at 2. It'll go longer if people are still need help. But usually about 2, the people that come from a distance, they start wanting to pack up and leave because they got 3 hours to get back, so they can go home. But we do have people coming as far away as Las Vegas to be here for the event. So Riverside County, they're coming up. Some are coming down from Fresno. So they come here because there's a lot of veterans here that need help. And we appreciate every one of them that does come. We start feeding breakfast about 9:30 after opening ceremonies, and we have lunch at noon. It's all free. Whoever said that there wasn't no such thing as a free lunch. But, you know, it's a crazy day. I know that we were on the run constantly. Wife and I and all the volunteers were getting called left and right to come to the tables and, you know, talk to them, plus get the veterans to the tables they need to be to. And what I mean by tables, there's 63 tables so far that are going to be set up in Carnegie Center that have that many providers that have, you know, something to offer. We don't call them vendors because vendors sell things. Our people don't sell things. They give it away generously. The information is needed. So, you know, I invite everybody to come out and see what's going on. We'll be doing it again next year, I'm sure. Because every year we barely get it done and they say, when's the next one? So we know there's a need. Anyway, that's my comment this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Mike Neal. Let me just start off with the main subject here. Actually, no. Let me divert. Let me just say what I'm going to talk about is obviously tied at the hip to the city's recent push to put out quote unquote information, a lot of which looks like campaigning for the Measure P sales tax. For those people who are not thrilled with the idea of being taxed even more by your city, you have the opportunity of voting out the two current incumbents that did vote for this, Mr. Boone and Mr. Heyman. So keep that in mind, citizens, when you consider all your options. Now what I'd like to talk about is just one part of the push to get us to try to get us to vote for this sales tax, and that is the police department. I emailed all of you today. I got a kind response from Mr. Blades, who interestingly is not here. His response was pretty much echoed everything that's been said for the years that I've been down here addressing city council. My position on this is, and I'm going to give this to your Heather here I would like to put this in as part of the record. I couldn't actually find the crime statistics available on the website. It just wouldn't come up. So I was trying to find the typical plots for over the years and what the various crimes were each year, you know, number of crimes each year. But I did find from the 2021 budget review stuff, what was called Part 1, Crime Trends. Sent that to everybody, and you should be aware of that. And if you look at what's called Crime Trends, which I can only assume is overall crimes in the city from 2009 to 2020, from 2009 to 2019, it goes up and down, maybe 200 crimes per year. 2020 is actually the lowest one, and yet we're being told our police department is lacking. We don't have enough people. My position would be, well, if we have less staff/officers in the police force, and the crime is basically the same in the city, then maybe we didn't need as many as we thought we did. You know, since I can ever remember, since the dawn of time, the police department, ever since they went down from about 36 officers, they said, oh, we need 32 officers. And I'm sure they have their basis for saying that. But in these particular times when people are getting hit in their pocketbook, and now the city wants them to pay more sales tax, you have to be pragmatic and you have to address the question. If crime is doing the same as it always has been for, I mean, we're talking about, over 11 years here, then why do we need more officers? Well, maybe the city should respond a little more specifically to that. Let me give you a out-of-the-box thing that would help that. Help arm your citizens. Armed citizenry is a fearful thing to a criminal. And we've had a number of crimes in the last several months that were personal up-to-up, armed kind of situations where it would have stopped immediately had the citizen been armed and been able to face his attackers. Now, the city obviously is a little limited, but they could certainly at least consider the option of using some of these millions of dollars that they want to spend on parks for shade and everything else under the sun to help bring in some of these organizations that train people in the use of firearms, because it's really not a good idea to have a firearm and not know how to use it. And the training is abundant, it's readily available, and if the city just said, hey, citizens, we like the idea that you're capable of defending yourself, you're capable of fending off a criminal, and we want you to get a firearm. And if you do, we'll help you get training for it. That should be very doable, and it sounds like it would really help the problem. If Ridgecrest was known to be a well-armed city, I think most of the criminals are probably going back to Bakersfield. So you need to consider that, and I'll be asking you more about that in the future. Thank you.
Any other public comment? We'll go ahead and check. Is there any public comment on the phone? Excuse me. I'll give about 30 seconds for any public comment. Little bit of just quick, Nick, Carol, you and all your volunteers, you guys are, I can't say enough words about the amount of effort you guys put out for veterans. Thank you very much on behalf of a grateful community. I know you guys work your backsides off, very much so, and we appreciate it. Okay, any other calls? No other calls? Is there any staff direction? Okay. Terry, if you don't mind, could you make sure that Ms. Wagner gets your email contact information? That's our Director of Parks and Rec, and she's the one who's actively working on, all of our recreational type needs, and I just want to make sure that we keep you informed as we make progress on the pool. Okay, thank you. Okay, next on our agenda is council announcements and/or direction. Is there any other council announcements? Peggy?
None for me, thank you.
Scott?
None here, thanks.
Solomon?
I was not here in the last meeting, for the last meeting. We went on vacation to Hawaii anyway, so.
Jealous.
But I went and watched the video, and the presentation made by Chief Jed. You have laid out all the facts. You said the police are working overtime, they are worn out. They did not get increase in their salaries for 10 years. Those are the factors very important. I don't know if you remember or not, when I started as council member, I asked you to present these facts at that time itself. So I'm glad you made a presentation. So that is very useful. People need to know what is happening in the police department. Thank you very much for the presentation. I appreciate that. And I also want to thank Public Works Director, Mr. Reed, for putting out the information in the newspaper about what we are doing with the Measure V money, how we are improving the roads, filling up the potholes, and doing all kinds of stuff, fixing the lights. So people need to know. The same way Nerissa put out information on the Parks and Rec, what improvements that are going to take place, what is going to happen in the future, what we are expecting to do. So those are the things public need to know so that they feel comfortable with the money they are giving to the city. So I appreciate their hard work. The same way Megan is pushing out social media and throwing out the information so that everybody who is on the social media, people not like me, but they know what is happening. So really appreciate all these things happening. That's a good direction. I mean, I believe in singing our song. We need to tell our story, otherwise they will not know. So I really appreciate the hard work of staff in this matter. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Just a couple quick announcements. One, thank you to the Rotary Club of Charn Lake for having me as a guest this afternoon. That was a pleasure to talk to you guys and share just different information on where the council is going, and especially Measure P. It was also, just as you guys had a head up, you heard that Councilman Rajaratnam was speaking about the 9/11 parade is coming up this weekend. We would love to see everyone out and participating. It would be great to have as many people out there. We have heard there's a possibility of rain. Don't worry about it. We're in Ridgecrest. We all know that we get worried for rain or snow and then it blows right over us. But we hope we're going to have a fantastic event. We're going to look on the positive side. There is a candlelight vigil the next day on the 11th. I believe it's at 6 p.m. at the gazebo, if you're interested. And the night of Parade of 1,000 Flags is also the NRA dinner, which will be here at Kerr-McGee. So there's going to be a lot to do here at Kerr-McGee over the weekend. I also wanted to mention that if you want some more information from the council or on Measure P, I'll be speaking at the Ridgecrest Chamber of Commerce next Tuesday at their luncheon, and we would obviously welcome your participation. And then on next Wednesday evening at 6 p.m., we're going to be holding a trash talk forum here in the council chambers. This is going to be a moderated conversational forum, not with the entire council, not as a formal meeting, but as a conversational opportunity to address any other community questions. We certainly are working very hard to get the information disseminated, and we know that this thing is coming. We can't change the course of it. It's on its tracks and headed that way, and we want to make sure that we've given every opportunity for the community to express any of their concerns or to get their questions answered. So that'll be occurring on the 16th. Okay, next is our consent calendar. We have 2 items on the consent calendar this evening. All items listed on the consent are considered to be routine and non-controversial by city staff. Consent items may be approved by one motion if no member of the council or audience wishes to comment or ask questions. If comment or discussion is desired by anyone, the item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered in listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the city council concerning the item before the action is taken. The 2 items are, first, proposed action to approve the draft minutes of the Ridgecrest City Council regular meeting dated August 17, 2022. And second is a request for sponsorship of the Petroglyph Rock Art Festival. Does any member of the council wish to have an item pulled? Hearing none, does any member of the public wish to have an item pulled? Seeing none, do I have a motion for approval of the consent calendar as presented?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Roll call.
Mayor Bruin,
Aye.
Ms. Breeden,
Aye.
Mr. Heyman,
Aye.
Mr. Rajaratnam.
Aye.
4 ayes, motion carries.
Fantastic. And we are all looking forward to the Petroglyph Rock Art Festival. Yet another one of our signature community events that we are trying to invest in. So thank you for that request. Item number 3 is our discussion action items. The first action item is discussion regarding the board of the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority, the IWVGA. Mr. Heyman?
Thank you, Mayor. The board did meet last month. I was not present at the last city council meeting, so I didn't get to report out. The meeting was a short meeting, and we had one primary agenda item, which was to authorize award of contract for Rose Valley Monitoring Well Drilling Services. And that was approved with a unanimous approval from the board. And that's all I have at this time. We will be meeting next Wednesday, and I'll have a report out on the following council meeting.
Fantastic. Any questions from council in regards to the Groundwater Authority? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to item number 4. Actually, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna do one thing. Councilman Heyman, I just want to make sure that, I'm counting my meetings in my head. This is the first of the 5 that I've got left. So in case I don't do it, I'm going to make sure I do it in many of the meetings. Thank you for your service to the IWGA and for advocating for this community over and over again. I know that's not been an easy job, and we do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next is item number 4, proposed action to reorganize council committee assignments. This was an item I asked Ms. Charlon to put on the agenda last meeting. Ms. Breeden, as requested, to be relieved of committee assignments for medical reasons in the interim.
I would like to say something if I can at this
Absolutely,
point in
ma'am.
time. If you know, since recovering from cancer, the next thing happened was I had heart issues. And I thought last week when I went to Loma Linda, I was going to have open heart surgery. It turns out I don't need to have that. My numbers are awful. I still have other issues, and I'm having difficulty getting around. And so rather than try to half-serve my committee meetings, I asked for us to appoint somebody. I asked the council for the opportunity to someone else to attend those meetings and still keep up to what was going on. My thanks for everybody who's asked how I'm doing. I'll know more after a couple of more tests at Loma Linda, and I thank you all.
Thank you, Peggy. So my understanding, Peggy, is we have city org, and were you on infrastructure or economic development?
And the water, the alternate. on
Alternate for the water, sorry, alternate for water,
And I have a couple of other,
city org,
yes. And some
and
of those committees that don't meet too
regular,
often.
yeah, I'm not gonna worry about those with the last
Okay.
2 months of the,
So
but
it's
city
and
org,
water.
economic development or infrastructure? Which one?
Say that again.
Economic development or infrastructure? She's on
No,
either one, so just
no.
city org. And the alternate for water.
Yep.
Okay, so those are gonna be the two we address. In regards to city org, again, I know that, is there a request for, without Councilman Blades here, I know that he has indicated his interest to be the alternate for water. I don't know if he's indicated that with any other of the council members. I know that he indicated that with me. And then I don't know if there's if you guys, either of you have an interest in serving on city org, because I already serve on it, so.
For 2 months I can.
Okay. Solomon will do city org for the remainder, and is the council okay with volunteering Mr. Blades in regards to being the alternate for water? I do know that he has expressed that to me, and I just want to make sure that that's good with the rest of the council.
Could I just ask a question? There was, and could you clarify it? There was some discussion at one point in time that it was a conflict for Kyle to serve on that with his job at the base, and I understand that conflict has found resolution.
As to the nature of what was resolved, I would apologize. I did not dig into Mr. Blades' personal information in that way, but I know that he did give me the assurances that
That's
that
what
was
I just want to make
okay.
sure the public understands he can fully serve.
Yes, again, as it was
that arise?
indicated, he was capable of serving.
Thank you.
So, and I apologize. I wouldn't normally check my phone, except that, as we said, did as he can. I just want to make sure it wasn't Kyle, texting, for some reason. Okay, so that'll be Mr. Rajaratnam onto the city org and Mr. Blades as the alternate for water. Next item is item number 5. This is a resolution to approve the professional services agreement with Wilden Engineering for an amount not to exceed $217,073 for preliminary construction engineering services for the City Clean California Leeward Jackson improvements, and authorize the city manager to sign the agreement. Ms. Wagner.
Good evening, council. So I sit in front of you tonight because back in February of 2022, the city of Ridgecrest was awarded $1.8 million for the Caltrans Clean California grant. This was to do some improvements to the Leroy Jackson Sports Complex. This project includes completion of a walking path, including solar lighting with shaded seating along that walking path, additional drinking fountains. We will be adding lighting to the tennis courts, which currently do not have lights. We'll be adding more trash, recycle, and compost receptacles. Also fixing ADA improvements and adding new trees and plants. So we are asking council to approve us going into an agreement with Wildan Engineering for an amount not to exceed $217,000. With this agreement, also, Wildan will assist with the design and construction of repair, replacement of the 6 tennis courts, and also creating 3 of those tennis courts to be multi-use. So we'll have 3 tennis/pickleball courts and then 3 just tennis courts. So tonight, I'm asking council to award the professional services agreement to Wildan Engineering for engineering services for the Clean California Leroy Jackson Improvement Project, to authorize the finance director to amend the budget to reflect all appropriate capital revenue and transfer accounts, and then to authorize the city manager to execute the contract for engineering services in the amount of $217,000 for the Leroy Jackson Improvement Project. With that, me or Mr. Reed are here for questions.
Okay, thank you much. We'll go right to left. Peggy, you have any?
I'm excited about this. This is a golden opportunity for us to spend dollars that might not necessarily have ever been available, and now we have it. And I thank you for the work that you brought forward. I still don't know what pickleball is, and I did go read up on it, and it might be fun for somebody who's not 76 years old, but great job. Thank you.
From my observation, it's more of a slower paced tennis, basically.
Yeah.
I play there
It
at your
is.
tennis court.
It's becoming very popular.
That's what my grandkids were telling me.
The other one that's really popular is wiffle ball, baseball. Wiffle ball. Has came back as out of nowhere. I mean, I'm like, wiffle ball.
That'll probably be our next adventure.
Yeah, probably. Anything else, Peg? Scott?
So I just want to thank you for all the hard work that's gone into this and getting the grant, and I concur with Peggy that it's going to be a great add-on to the city as far as increasing our parks and activities, and I hate to use the word beautification, but it's definitely working that direction to where it's really enhancing our parks, and the people in this town are going to have nicer places to utilize, and so anyway, I want to thank you for that. The $217,073, now that's coming out of the funds?
Yes,
from-
it's
so-
out of the Clean California
Right.
grant.
So we discussed that in Parks. I just wanted everybody
Yes.
to understand that will be coming out of the funds for this project. And again, thank you for all your hard work, Travis, and to everyone on the Quality of Life and Parks Committee. So that's all I have.
As always, you do a good job, Nerissa. Thanks for all your hard work. I do have a couple of questions, just for clarification. You said in your staff report, 3 of the courts usable for tennis and pickleball using the ARPA funding. So how much of ARPA funding is coming for this? Is that part of the 1.84 million?
No, the
Okay.
ARPA money is completely separate.
Okay.
So
And, yeah.
just to kind of elaborate on that for you, it would require design services for both of them as we were resurfacing and reconstructing some of the tennis courts. And rather than spending the money to bid multiple projects, we felt that it was in the best interest of the city and the public to bid these as one project on separate bid schedules. So that way we're not paying for publications for multiple projects. We're not paying for preparation of bidding documents on multiple projects. And we felt like combining them kind of flowed with the project since it's on the same site.
Okay. And I also understand from the presentation that this professional service agreement is made with Wildan. So this is a single source bid or as per the contract?
So this is since when the Clean California grant came out, they didn't have final regulations for how you're supposed to hire consultants. So we went back and looked through previous RFPs, and back in 2019, we did an RFP for on-call services and city engineering services, to which Wildan went through a competitive bidding process and won that contract. With all the other projects we have going on right now, in order to keep construction, engineering, and inspection costs down, we felt that it was in the city's best interest to utilize Wildan, one, because they've already basically beat out all the other design firms for our on-call services for any kind of city engineering needs. And two, because we're hoping that we can double dip on inspection to where we can have the inspector that's doing some of our road projects do the inspection on the park too, and thus keep the costs for inspection and not have multiple inspectors out here. As a lot of this is, other than the ADA work, a lot of this is going to be go out, talk to the contractor, make sure we understand what's going on, and then final inspection. So we don't know that it's going to require 100% full-time inspection, but we felt that utilizing an inspector off of another job was in the best interest of saving public funds for other projects.
That answers my question. Thank you.
So let me jump where Councilman Rajaratnam was on the ARP versus Clean California, because I understand now we're knocking some things in together, which makes good sense. That's how you do is you stack projects and you make them more efficient by doing multiples at the same time. On that vein, the 1.8 that we are receiving through Clean California and the 6.9 that we got from ARPA, the 217 is coming from which bucket?
Clean California.
Clean California. Okay. Second is if we are doing some of the ARPA things to Leeward Jackson Sports Complex, is there a reason we didn't fast track perhaps at least one other, since it is a construction level firm, and that's the bathroom? And I'm just curious if there was a discussion, I know we've already discussed it up here on the council level in regards to ARPA, and I'm just curious if there was any discussion in terms of bringing that project either to council for streamlined approval along with, or if there was a discussion in terms of being able to add it into a project scope at some point in the future.
So part of the reason why we didn't include the bathroom is we applied for the DCIP grant. With the DCIP grant and replacing some of the fields, we wanted to make sure that we were not going to contradict ourselves and put in improvements that we would then have to take out to get some of those water improvements in. And with the timeline for the Clean California grant, I didn't feel that we had the luxury to be able to wait for the DCIP grant and then do the Clean California grant. So it was kind of a timeline juggle. We did think about the bathroom. The original plan for that park was to put additional softball fields in there, and I don't necessarily think that we ran the course of where we're going to go with fields. And I think the amount of time that we would have needed to make sure that we put the bathroom in a place would have stymied our progress on Clean California. And we're trying to get this done and the tennis courts done in a timely fashion to where we can time it to where people aren't using the parks quite as much. So that way we can do it in the down times. And I didn't think that holding it up would be in the best interest.
Can it be added at a future date?
Absolutely. So we did a comprehensive survey of the site. So the base mapping that we are utilizing for all the projects that are going on at Leroy Jackson right now, as a matter of fact, Narissa and I were just working on the shade structures for ARPA that got approved by you guys for the dugouts and for the bleachers. And we're utilizing this same survey that we're utilizing for Clean California to do all these projects. So the base mapping will be comprehensive, so any improvements that we do to this site are all going to be within one file. So when we use that again, we'll have where all the improvements are to scale, what the elevations are, what everything is, and be able to build off that. So we could say, hey, if in the future we want to build a field now, we want to make sure that we put the bathroom in a spot that's accessible and that's not going to cause us problems in the future. So with this Clean California grant now, the survey portion of the work that we need to make sure that we don't have a conflict in the future and have to alter our path is now covered.
Can I ask a question? One of the
course you can.
things, well, I followed up yours, and it seemed to me that, is there some way then, I think what I understood you to say, that you're trying to put more projects, to fund more projects without having the money to be able to have the agreement to go ahead and do that and the money will come in? Is that what I understand, or am I missing something?
No, not necessarily fund them in another way without getting approval, but we're bundling them to save money on the contract and bidding side.
Okay, I got it. Now I see where you're going with it. Okay,
So,
that, I understand.
Yeah, and that it does make sense.
That's a smart
I
thing.
don't want to say, it makes good sense. I'm just, I'm a little thinking about that is, when we talk about things that we would be making changes beyond, that is, I understand the reason the tennis courts would be in because we're doing structural, facilities, concrete work.
Yes.
That's where instantly I'm thinking the bathroom, because it's gonna have the same, it's structural facilities work versus the xeriscaping or planting trees. You understand what I meant? There's physical involvement.
And maybe, it's something maybe we can have a conversation with Mike and see what his thought is on that. And if we're making good progress on the Clean California side, and we think it's something we can add in at a later date, maybe that's something that we
And
can look
that's all I
into.
this is what council came up with is, and I'm only pointing that one out because I know as we start to make the improvements in Leroy Jackson, I know you say this, if somebody loses a bunch of weight, you notice all of a sudden they've got zits, right? And so as we do a lot of work on the park, all of a sudden, I guarantee you one of the things that's gonna happen is, where's the bathroom?
That's a heck of an analogy there.
You like that one? I came up with it on the fly. It's one of my specials. But you get what I'm trying to say is what is not been addressed will become more glaring. And I love the idea that you guys are stacking up projects to be able to knock them through. And if there's an opportunity, even if it's 3 months, 4 months down the line here, that, hey, we've got Wilden there, the plans are being laid out. We know where this bathroom's going, or at least we have a pretty good general idea where it's going. What is it gonna take to plop that in there and get it done and get it moving through the ARPA would be advantageous.
One of the other things with that bathroom is a prefab bathroom. So literally you build the pad, you run the plumbing to where the plumbing needs to be, and they set the bathroom on top of it. So staff was thinking maybe that might be something we might be able to tackle in-house as well and save the consulting fees.
Okay.
And the consulting design fees too. And that
Okay.
was something that we've batted around numerous times, so.
And we have a great public works director who is gonna be here for years, and I know that we have no problem with that in the future. So with that, we'll go ahead and, any other questions from the public? Hearing none, and I'll bring it back to council. Any other questions for the council? Okay.
I do have.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So we're using Wildan for this Clean
Oh, is there a
California
phone?
grant. And Wildan will be utilized for the ARPA, some of the ARPA projects too.
The tennis court
For the
portion.
tennis court one that we're bundling,
Okay.
yes.
And we're keeping this separate, the monies that are going to be coming out of Clean California to pay Wildan will be kept separate from outside projects outside the Clean California grant that Wildan will be doing.
Correct. So the design work and stuff that Wildan is doing for the ARPA side will be segregated on invoices.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, the actual construction work will be on a separate bid schedule.
Okay.
So when the contractor bills us, he'll have bid schedule 1, which we'll know is Clean California, or bid schedule 2, however they do it. And bid schedule 2 will be ARPA. So it'll be 2 separate pots under the same name.
Right.
And then it'll just be on our side to keep things separate, and on our consultant's side to keep things separate.
Yep. Perfect.
But the majority of the funds for the work are Clean California and are funded by Clean California. And one of the other things that she didn't mention yet, we actually got our, what's the word for
The
it?
advance
Yeah,
payment.
we actually got our advance payment already. So we have $473,000 of that money sitting there ready to go. So,
Good job. Thank you, guys.
Burning a hole in our pocket.
that's right.
Let's get to work. I like it. I did check, was there anything on the phone? I don't believe so. No? And so we brought it back to council. Any other council comments? Thrilled to see Clean California moving forward.
One last question though,
Just one for the,
to the engineer, public works director. So you can do this job, right, if given to you?
For
Other
the,
than,
for the bathroom?
no, this consultancy job, whatever we are giving it to Wildan, do you have the capacity to do that?
There is a lot of that, yes, I absolutely think I can.
But
can
we don't
handle.
have time to do all these things, right?
It's, we don't have the staff to do it all. No matter what, we will be going out and doing a contract for construction engineering, because we just don't have the staff for it. And the bulk of this money is on the construction engineering side. I think it was 175,000 was on the construction engineering side. So we're only looking at 35. A lot of this is landscape and utilizing the survey that we've done to draw the improvements that we're doing. So a lot of it, yes, absolutely can handle it. Don't know that we have the time for that, or that I have the time for that right now with all the other road projects and stuff we're trying to do, but we could, the majority of this work we could have done in-house, absolutely.
Sure, thought I would ask. Thank you.
Okay, hearing that, do I have a motion for approval of the resolution?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion, second, roll call?
Mayor Bruin,
Aye?
Ms. Breeden,
Aye.
Mr. Heyman,
Aye.
Mr. Rajaratnam.
Aye.
4 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, item number 6 is a resolution to amend a professional services agreement with Walden Engineering in the amount of $11,578 to include the analysis of Class 3 defects and include the Class 3 repairs in the capital improvements plan project and the engineer's report. Mr. Reed.
So this is in correlation to our Phase 1 and Phase 2 sewer project. We went out in 2020, solicited an RFP. Willdan won that RFP to do a comprehensive report on all the earthquake damage and assessment of all of our collections pipelines, implement and develop projects for us to complete. We did Phase 1 of this original of when we kind of set them out for on the report side of it, and I believe it was 16. And that was a lot of the new sewer line we put on Church and some of the point repairs we did. But when we got the report back, we wanted a capital improvement plan that would give us projects for 5 to 7 years. To fix, we initially tasked them to fix the Class 4 and the Class 5 defects, which are your major defects, which would be things like a slipped joint on a sewer line or a lateral break and a separation, caving of the pipe, a sag in the pipe, things like that has caused ponding and potential plugs and overflows. Since we didn't have a comprehensive list of projects that we could develop out of that report, which was the sole intent of it, I went back and looked back at how many Class 3 defects we have. So we have a lot of Class 3 defects. And I mean, when I say a lot, I mean a lot of what I would classify as Class 3 defects. And since the intent of this at the onset was to develop a program, because defects don't get better over time, they get worse. I wanted to make sure that we had a way of classifying where our priority Class 3s were and where our soon-to-be priority Class 3s or Class 4s would be. So that way we would have a comprehensive plan. Since we already spent the money to develop this report, I felt the report needed to match what we set out to do. So I asked Wilden to put a proposal together to add the Class 3 defects in, so that way we could get a comprehensive list for 5 to 7 years worth of projects that we could do. Now, that doesn't mean we have to do a project in year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, year 6, year 7, but at least we have the groundwork and the roadmap laid out for these projects, how we would want to group them, keeping a contractor in one place to fix the defects in Zone A, call it, how we would want them to do in Zone B. So it's completing what I feel is necessary to complete a task to give us a comprehensive list, so that way we can prepare for the future and prepare for work that we are going to have to do in the future. And with that, I'm open for any questions.
Peg, I'll let you start. Scott.
Do we know what those defects are already?
So we did comprehensive videos in 2019 after the earthquakes, and Wildan flagged a lot of ones that they would call Class 3s, but they didn't really analyze the Class 3s. So this is so they can analyze them and then group them in with it was about $600,000 worth of Class 4 and Class 5 work that we would have to do. And obviously that's best case scenario. A lot of times when you dig to do a point repair on a Class 4 or a Class 5, you end up chasing your tail out further because the dirt around it is what's holding the pipe together. So we're literally just asking them like, hey, let's expand this to all of our Class 3s, so that way we have a list of places that we know now, hey, this has 3 Class 4s and a Class 5, and we've got 31 Class 3s. Well, if I've got that many point repairs to do, chances are I'm going to end up replacing the majority of that pipe. So let's just plan to replace from manhole to manhole in that section. It felt it gave us a broader sense of the overall condition of the pipe rather than just the point defects, and gave us a chance to be proactive instead of reactive in the future.
I do have one math question, though.
Okay?
If you add up 157,487 to 11,578, it comes to 169,065 instead of 166,065 you are asking.
That is a typo on my behalf.
So we need to correct that to 169,065, is that right?
That would be correct, I would think. And I will verify that, and I don't know if the typo is in the 166, or maybe the typo is in the 157. So I will clarify, and with your guys' permission, amend it to match the original contract, and the amendment number I know is right.
I think, yeah, 11,578 is correct.
Correct.
I think the correct number, as per the original agreement, it shows 157,487. So just check on that, so.
So it's
Yeah,
it's
157.
169.
It's an addition problem that I apparently
Very
did not
good.
do very well.
You do good. No, I'm not trying to find fault or anything, just wanted to make sure we have the right number. That's it.
Well, obviously, thank you for adding this. I mean, I don't think people understand how big the Ward project is in terms of sewer and scale, and why we're doing it. So just adding that little bit of background is, we have constantly been making these proactive decisions to make improvements, in part because we've got a great public works director who's taking a proactive approach with these things. This is one of those things where it would be very easy for us to do exactly what so many people in our community sometimes like to say, which is, well, if you don't have the money, you just don't do it. Well, that would be ignorant of us. These types of defects will come back and bite this community in the butt, and that's why it's so important that we continue this process of constantly making improvements rather than being proactive rather than being reactive. I don't think anybody can, I think if I were to survey 100 people and I said, which would you prefer? Somebody who's taking a positive, proactive approach or somebody who's reacting to the chaos of the moment? And you'll probably find that there's the two people that are always the same two people that want to react to the chaos of the moment because that's what satisfies their ego. And the other 98 people are looking for a proactive approach. And I'm very proud of our efforts here at the city to take a proactive approach towards our public works, as well as many other things that our community needs. So this is fantastic. I'm glad to see it goes to class 3. I'm going to ask, is there class 2?
Yes, so we have a 5-point system. Class 1s are your minor hairline fractures, a chip on the upper portion of the pipe. Your 2s are typically maybe a minor sag that has the potential in 5 years to cause a backup. Your 3s are what they feel is a structural crack and has the potential to become a lateral offset or a vertical offset. Your 4s are those structural cracks that do have lateral offsets, and your 5s are a high priority or a high potential of failure or sewage spillage, which is costly for us because then we have to write reports. We get guys called out in the middle of the night. So it's
if we were to put it into a common sense approach for people, a class 5, let's throw an arbitrary number on it. We'll say has a percentage failure within 2 years that probably escalates up every year from there.
Correct.
Right? Its average percentage of failure at class 5 is 60% and escalates up every year after.
Yep.
And class 4, the average percentage of the failure is 40% and scales up afterwards. And the class 3 is
correct.
20% and scales up there. And so by addressing the 3s, 4s, and 5s, we have essentially greatly increased that longevity lifespan for the pipe in product.
Correct.
Because every single one of those defects, the defect already exists, which means that the clock of wear and tear is already running.
Correct.
Whereas correcting it now, we set ourselves into a position where we're only chasing the odds of failure on class 2s and class 1s, which maybe, if you've ever watched an exponential curve of how, things fall apart and why things break, you are not worried about the fact that your dishwasher feels a little warm, after a cycle instead of whether or not it's smoking, right? There's two different classifications of damage. And that's what I want to make sure is that we are now reducing that load burden or potential load damage substantially by bringing the class 3s on. And we're doing it at, this is part of why proactive action in public works is so much more opportunistic and wise than the reaction which we've been forced into from a budget perspective for so long.
And, and one of the other things to add to that, just to kind of feed off of what you're saying, is now is the time to do it because we've already invested $157,000 into this report. And if we were to allow this report to finalize and then come back and put out another RFP, now we're wasting staff time and city dollars to put out another RFP to award a project. Then if the same firm doesn't get it, they're going back and we're paying them to read the report, understand the report, reanalyze all these videos where Willdan's already analyzed the videos once and just has minor things that they need to analyze to be able to build a comprehensive list. So now is the time to do it because I feel truly if we were to do this after we finalized this report, that number wouldn't be 11,000. That number would be somewhere in the 50s to 60s.
And potentially even higher when you factor in time.
Correct.
I mean, that's not taking into account time value of money.
Correct.
So
Absolutely.
And opportunity cost, both. Excellent. Okay, is there any public comment from the floor? Is there any public comment on the phones? I'm seeing none. I'm going to give it just a second. I'll bring it back to council. Is there any other final comments from council? I
just want to thank you for clarifying that last few statements that you made, because that kind of set it in stone with me as far as the whys behind it and the worthiness of it.
I meant to say that at the beginning, but when I
Yeah.
started talking about defects, my mind got all excited because I got to tell you about some engineering stuff so that you guys probably didn't care about, but.
You just wanted to keep us here longer.
Yeah, so then I was like, I
thank
got to
you
get
for
this
that,
back to
because
the money. Got to get it back to
Yeah.
the money.
That makes perfect sense.
Travis is very interested in defects.
I am, because it makes my guys get out of bed.
Exactly.
So of course I'm
Exactly.
interested in defects.
I don't blame you. It's like saying we're interested in interest rates, as crazy as that sounds. Okay. Hearing no other comment, do I have a motion for approval of item number 6 as presented with the amendment to the resolution indicating 169 as the total funds?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Roll call.
Mayor Bruin,
Aye.
Ms. Breeden,
Aye.
Mr. Heyman,
Aye.
Mr. Rajaratnam,
Aye.
4 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, next item is item number 7. This is the second reading and adoption of Ordinance 2204, an ordinance amending Chapter 102 of the City of Ridgecrest Municipal Code by setting forth an expedited, streamlined permitting process for electric vehicle charging stations as required by Government Code Section 65-850.7. And before we have any discussion, I'm just telling everyone out loud that if all of our phones suddenly beep with a Cal OES power emergency, I am going to laugh on the dais. Okay? While we are approving a electric vehicle charging ordinance. Okay.
I don't know that it's the second reading. If you guys don't have any questions, I presented at the last meeting.
Yeah, that's why, it's just, is there it's an opportunity for council? Is there any council follow-up questions?
I wasn't here at the last meeting, so I do have some questions. So can you run down me the process from the time you get an application?
So essentially, it depends on how big the project is. What this does is this says, from the time that staff says, okay, we deem your application is complete, it starts a clock for how fast we have to return this to them. If we do not return any comments to them within that time period, their project is basically approved.
So without you saying anything?
Without
if
me
you are
saying anything.
Keeping quiet, it is deemed to be approved?
Yes.
Okay.
And then Edison, obviously the load side on their grid and stuff is still controlled by Edison. But what it's doing is basically saying that we need to streamline the site planning portion, the how we're going to handle the ADA side of it, and all those requirements have to be done in a timely manner because we're trying to push towards these electric vehicles and we want people to have a place to charge them. So that's what in general, what the legislation is set out to do. And it told us that we had to adopt an ordinance, we have to have a streamlined process, we have to have a checklist, we have to have like an FAQ, which if you look back through,
But Mr. Reed, in view of that, how does this fit in? It says here, approve the application and issue all necessary permits within 5 business days after submission.
so that is one of them. So that's like if they want to take a existing parking lot that's already in compliance with ADA, and all they're doing is going to add electric charging to it, that we have to approve that application. Once we deem it's complete, and it's not a hazard to health, it's not a hazard for fire, not any other major public safety concern, that you have 5 days to approve it. And if not, it's by right is approved. So it's all kind of dependent on size of the project. Obviously, if they have 50 chargers, we have a little more time to look at that, to review it, to understand how they're running things, how they're doing things, how they're getting people from their ADA stalls to the sidewalk, to the building or the amenities that they have provided, how they're screening things so it meets our planning code for equipment, things like that. We have a little bit more time to review them. But it's placated on size.
Yeah,
and
just
how
want to
many.
make sure you are clear. There shouldn't be any ambiguity and nobody should question the process we are following.
Correct. We will be following the process, and we're actually we're ahead of the game, and we're a little late to the party, as I've so eloquently said in my staff report. I don't know if eloquently was the right word for that, but anyways, one of the other bills was for a reduction of parking. Heather and I have had numerous talks about our parking. This new section of code, an assembly bill, basically says if you're putting in electric chargers and you have to remove a parking stall or 2 parking stalls and it doesn't meet your parking requirement anymore, you still have to approve it. And with our conversations, I think our parking requirements are grossly oversized for our population, for how, I don't want to use the word infrequent, but how a lot of people like to go to the stores when people aren't there. I mean, how often do you go to Walmart and you see 90% of the stalls full? So it's, like I said, it's good legislation, especially on the parking side, and something that we've had conversations about doing in the future as far as reducing our parking requirements, so.
So once you give your approval, once you say, okay, this is good, so does it go to the planning commission for their approval again?
It depends. So obviously, if it's a new site and it falls under the planning commission's jurisdiction, the site plan would go to the planning commission. But if it's not a new site and they're just putting chargers, no, it does not go to the planning commission.
So how does the EV application, which planning commission has already approved, subject to traffic study, how does that play into this now? So are we going to wait till this is implemented to approve that, or?
So this will be implemented 30 days after this reading, of which we've done a site plan review for that project that you're speaking of. When we deem the application complete, so when they have a complete package that satisfies all the electrical requirements, all the site improvements, all the sewer improvements, all the building improvements, and we send it in, we have X amount of days, depending on the size of it, to return comments to them or to return an approved permit to them. So once the way I read the legislation, I don't feel that if they submit us a site plan and we say, hey, you didn't satisfy this for ADA, you didn't satisfy this, you didn't satisfy this, you didn't satisfy this condition, and we return it to them, the clock stops now because they're working on it. They can't just hold on to it and then say, oh yeah, we're approved now because we just held on to it for this 40 days. It's just basically a way, so that way public agencies can't say, we don't like this project, we're gonna hold it up for 4 years. So.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to understand the process. I appreciate the clarification.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other council comments? Are there any comments on the phone? I thought I heard that thing ring. It's not. Okay, great. Are there any public comments from the floor? Seeing none. Do I have a motion to waive the reading in full for ordinance 2204, an ordinance amending chapter 102 of the City of Ridgecrest Municipal Code by setting forth an expedited, streamlined permitting process for electric vehicle charging stations as required by government codes 65850.7 and 65850.71?
So moved.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion second. Roll call?
Mayor Bruin,
Aye?
Ms. Breeden,
Aye.
Mr.
Aye.
Mr. Heyman.
Aye.
4 ayes, motion carries.
And next, do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2204, an ordinance amending chapter 102 of the City of Ridgecrest
Thanks,
Municipal
Mr.
Code
Reed.
by setting forth an expedited, streamlined permitting process for electric vehicle charging stations as required by government code 65850.7 and 65850.71?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Roll call?
Mayor Bruin,
Aye?
Ms. Breeden,
Aye.
Mr. Heyman,
Aye.
Mr. Rajaratnam.
Aye.
4 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, next is committee reports. Infrastructure gets to go first because they're from August. That's you, sir. Oh, but you were on vacation, weren't you?
No, I attended.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared for that. But Public Work Director gave updates on the projects he is working on. So that's the focus of that meeting.
Fair enough. Bottom line is, probably the biggest thing that I'm just gonna throw out there, that infrastructure that you may not have heard and is, we have some ADA work to do around town, guys. I just want to remind everyone who may not hear that, we have some significant ADA work to do around town, peeps. The town's curb and gutter system was designed and built in many, many of the areas before ADA changes. And if we want to continue to maintain our access and ability to receive grants and things for our community, we have to begin to at least address our ADA compliance challenges. And so just want to reiterate that if you keep hearing, why has ADA suddenly come up? It's because we need to do some things that we need to not wait for the reactive, and we need to be proactive. City org, I'll go ahead and do for you. I'll go ahead and speak for us. I'm looking at you.
Me?
Yeah, well, you weren't there, but
I wasn't
you
there.
weren't there, but
Yeah.
but up until that point, you were. Sorry. City org met on last Thursday. It was a fairly brief meeting. It was, again, a largely conversational meeting. We have a couple different projects we're working on. Obviously, Trash 1383 is the focal point. Megan McKenzie continues to work on getting many different pieces organized and ready, from stickers to make sure that you guys know which bags are organic and can be used, to magnets for your fridge so you understand which sorting bins to use, to getting lids organized, to getting barrels in town, to getting bills set up, to getting displays ready. We contracted with one of our local, with a local group called, is it Hero Fund? Eco Hero, sorry. To provide educational sessions to our students in the community through both our public and private school system. There's nothing more powerful in getting household adoption of sorting than children. That's been statistically shown more and more and more is the best way to get it done, is to get the kids to do it, because then the parents feel bad that they're not leading by example. It's perfectly psychologically logical. And all of those funds and all of those efforts are coming from the grant dollars we received from Cal Recycle to implement 1383. So these are things that we are doing at no additional cost to the city. We have a plan to be out at the Desert Empire Fair and at the Petroglyph Rock Festival and all over the place in the fall, trying to let you, the community, have an opportunity to ask questions. I want to be clear. Nobody up here is thrilled with the idea of what the increase is. Nobody likes it. I don't like it any more than you do. But I accept that this is what is state law that was passed in 2016, in which I was not in this role, and I think all but Peggy was in this, was up here in a role that may have been able to advocate or prevent it. And the fact is that we are implementing it to the best of our ability on behalf of this community, and we are trying to reach out and provide you information. If every time we come out for information, you know, you want to argue the bill, I get it. I get it. Till I'm blue in the face. I hear you, peeps. But the fact is that there's nothing that we can do to magically change that. This is a state law that we need to mandate, that we need to implement, and we're already down that road. So trash talk next week, that town hall, please come in. We'd love to hear and answer your questions. That's what our goal is to educate and provide answers. The other thing we worked on is the Wayfinder project, which continues to be worked on. And the Wayfinder is essentially, you know, we're looking at a signage project to, the military banner program is a beautiful program. It takes a lot of work to get up, and it's had a lot of challenges in being maintained. And one of the things that we see is that there is a need for communication, especially as we look towards the future of our community, especially from a tourism perspective. We want people that come into Walmart to see a sign that says, go down and check out Mattarangle Museum, where they may have only entered literally the south side of town and never entered any other portion of our community. We want them to have a chance to see all of the incredible things that makes Ridgecrest what it is. And the Wayfinder project is that. Hasn't come up for a budget number yet. We haven't nailed down things. I've told them that, you know, it would be far too late in the season for this council to probably make that review or adjustment. So it'll probably be for the next council. But we're continuing to work on it. And then since I have that committee up here, there's something that I've asked every committee, and I just want to, you know, for the public to be aware. I have asked every committee staff chair to provide a single sheet summary of whatever they have worked on over the past 2 years. The public may understand that the Congress works in a 2-year cycle, and the city, with the fact that the mayor's 2-year term and the council members' 4-year terms, it means that every 2 years, essentially, the majority of the council can turn seats. And I think that's really important to know, because what it means is we should be preparing for whatever the inevitability or whatever the actions are and the decisions of our citizens. And that means that whoever is outbound from the council due to an end of term shouldn't be just holding the information to the chest, but rather creating a documented pattern of information exchange between whoever may be serving on the council in the future. And so I've asked each of the individual department staff chairs for those committees to create a sheet so that they can pass that on to whoever is on that committee for the future years. I started, I think I've hit 3 of the 4 committees so far. Travis, now you're on notice. Infrastructure wants one. Yeah. It's not until November. I don't want it till November. We got another 2 months. I just want to make sure that when we do that final meet, that whatever happens on November 8th is the citizens' decision. But whatever happens on the corresponding 16th, I believe, which would be the final meeting for this council, I want to make sure that whatever or whoever is coming into these roles is fully prepared and has gotten all the information from us. One of those things that I missed getting at the start of mine. And then quality of life was even more open forum yesterday than city org. Quality of life was a lot of talking about what's going on, where are things moving, what projects are in motion. I should let you do that one.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a bad habit.
So it was a good meeting, and under new business, we went over the shade at the Kerr-McGee Sports Complex. We're in the process of adding shade structures over the spectator seating, and that is an ARPA project, correct? Yep, and that'll be, and we're in the process of getting estimates, and that'll be coming back to us. And so movie nights, there will be a movie night on October 14th, and that's been a very well-attended and productive event for the city. We're currently working on Trunk or Treat for Halloween. Now, we don't have the exact date set. On the 28th, okay. And so we have 63 spaces filled out of 123. Okay. So there are still plenty of spaces for people to participate in the trunk or treat. So get a hold of Narissa at the Parks Department, and we welcome anybody's participation in it. I'll let the mayor discuss his idea of trunk or treat and tree lighting for Christmas and in December. We're working on the tree lighting event. Will be held December 2nd. Times to be determined, but it's typically at dark. But we'll have a firmed up time, and we'll report back on that. Several times probably between now and the actual event. The Clean California update. We actually handled that tonight as far as hiring Will Dan for the design and project management. CDBG grant, we're in the process of resubmitting to the county. That entails the fences at the ball fields. And the DCIP grant that we put in for, we were not selected, but we are looking at it as a learning process, and we will get to go back through and see what we can do to possibly improve our chances of putting in for another grant in the future. So I believe that I've covered most of what we went over, so I'll let the mayor discuss his idea for a trunk or treat.
Well, okay, so trunk or treat, I mean, I think that first, our entire Parks and Rec department has done a great job of getting it back up and running. I mean, let's be clear. I mean, we were shut down for 2 years, and it's not been an easy process for them. And our community has responded in spades in coming out. I mean, in terms of the movies nights, and we know that trunk or treat is going to be a big event for our community. And my question is, I'm more than willing to, if other council members are interested in joining me, we should have a trunk. We should be sitting out there as representatives of the city, open and available to our community and to our kids, and letting them know. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times that I've walked over the splash pad and they go, "You're really the mayor?" And I said, "Yeah, that's what I actually do." And they go, "No way." And then I proceed to have a 30-minute conversation with them about different things, whether they go, "Why don't we have this?" or "Why don't we have that?" I was so excited by the group of kids at one of our recent talks that were very adamant about wanting to talk about the pool and wanting to talk about their desire to see a pool returned. And when I told them we were putting shade and seating over at the skate park, you would have thought they thought they had just hit a home run. And I think that we miss those opportunities sometimes because we're in. Somebody made the statement to me, because we only speak in our own circles. And I don't really believe that, but I also know that the trunk or treat is an incredible opportunity for us to be out there in front of our community and give them the chance to ask us some questions or just interact. Obviously, there's not going to be a lot of time, but I'm more than happy to throw a couple bucks in. It would be perfect. It would be 100% as private citizens. This is not a city event. We are not there to advocate. We're not there to politicize. But if there's other members of the council that are interested in throwing candy at some kids and letting them know that we're out here and care about this community, I'm more than happy to partner with you if you're interested. So we got a bit of time. Drop me an email or voice out. Take your pick.
You have my support. I'm in with it.
Okay, I got Doc and me. You're not allowed. You're too valuable to us, and
No.
good. Okay, and Solomon and Kyle, you guys can check your calendars and let us know. I think it was from 4 to 6, right? Oh, you're so funny.
We could park you in a really comfy chair in the back of my pickup.
3:30 to 7:30, and that's on October 28th.
One main one?
I was gonna say 2, just so we have, because then if it ends up with 4 of us there, we have space to move around. That works for me. The element does. It says vote for Chip Holloway still to this day. Circa 2008, I think is when I put that sticker on there. And that car has not died yet. So For everyone out there, my money bag is my 18-year-old little Honda Element. Okay. That was all for Parks and Recs, and guys, there's so much coming out of Parks and Recs. If you are a parent and a family member, actually, I'm rattling, but I'm in a good mood. I had got to tell this story at Rotary today, and it's another important story that I just want the public to hear and get involved. They asked us, what have we done at Parks and Rec that we had not planned on? And I had a chance to tell them about two things that have moved up on our Parks and Rec wants to do, one that's in process and one that's a want to do, which is that shade structure at the skate park, which if a parent doesn't come in and look us in the eyes and say, you know, one of the reasons why they're fighting is because they're sitting on the structures. Okay, didn't see that. Thank you. Boom, in motion. And the second one was inclusivity in our playground equipment. And it takes those parents and those individuals getting involved that I keep saying over and over and over again. We want your input. We want your involvement. I would love to have people lined up here, like the young lady who was here earlier, Terry. Was it Terry? Terry. Telling us that they want a pool, and we appreciate that. So, just wanted to kudos that. Those meetings are great meetings to come and give us input. If you make the assumption that somebody knows what you want or desire, then you know what the word assumption means. Okay, other committees, boards, or commissions? Anybody have anything else? No? City manager, or pseudo manager?
Oh, that was bad.
So I'd like to comment on the public comment earlier. So thank the speaker for pointing out the dedication and commitment that your officers have in this community by keeping the crime low. One victim is too many. We know we can never get to zero, but being able to investigate to our fullest and take those people off the streets, important. Arming the public, not sure that's the wisest idea. I'm sure you guys can think in your heads of a person that you definitely don't want to have a gun out there. This is not Mayberry. We have criminals. And if you think you can shooting at a target is one thing, being able to pull that trigger on a human is another. So being ready to take that criticism, Monday morning quarterbacking, and the lawsuits that will come, people have to think about that. There are processes to do that. It's called the CCW process, Concealed Weapons Permit. I give a lot of them. I know the sheriff gives a lot of them. So you have to take training to get the CCW. There's other organizations in town that provide training. Our local NRA gives training, so there are avenues to that. And staffing, like I pointed out a couple weeks ago, you have to have the staff to respond to the major incidents. Like our brothers and sisters at the fire department, we constantly prepare for the thing we never hope happens. And the earthquakes are a perfect example. The floods of, I forget what year it was, 2005, is another example. You have to have the staffing to respond to those, because what happens if nobody else can get here? And second, on a good note, Bros football won last Friday night for the first time in over 3 years. So seeing the joy and excitement in the kids and the coaches was pretty special. So this Friday night against Bishop here at home. That's it, sir. Thanks.
Just a personal story, but I played football for 7 years, and my first 3, we went 0-30. And on my senior year, we got our one win. We went 1-9. But man alive, I will agree with you. There's nothing more rewarding if you have had a consistent losing season or seasons than a win. So congrats to our kids. I just want to chime in there also, just not in big detail, but, you know, I find it very interesting when people accuse us of not doing things during COVID and then turn around and use COVID numbers as examples of how things are working. And similarly, fail to address what we all generally agree has been happening in the areas surrounding us, because Ridgecrest is just that. It is a community within the county of Kern. The county of Kern is a county within the state of California. And the state of California is within the federal government. You gave a great presentation showing all of the additional time and effort that our officers are having to put into bureaucratic aspects that are keeping them off the street, and then to point to those like they are proof of they are proof that the common sense knowledge we all know is wrong. When we all know that there have been more incidents, and we do know that the bail system is not being supported, or you know, they're trying to still push no bail at the state level and legislatively. And that's just another dagger in the hearts of our police officers. So we need to, as Ridgecrest, make sure that we always recognize and appreciate our officers and what they've given. And these guys, a lot of these guys, gave nearly a decade of service without a cost of living adjustment. And for us to be standing here now saying, well, you're doing a good enough job, so we shouldn't have to spend any more money on you, sure seems like a very selfish approach to things. So, okay. Future agenda items. Seeing none, I will go to mayor and council comments. Any final comments?
I was going to respond to the comment similarly as Jed did, because I think it's outrageous to think that we would stand here, even though I'm a strong supporter of NRA and our ability to have guns as we see fit within the law, but for us to encourage guns to be out in the public with what sounded to me virtually no restrictions except CCW is outrageous on our part to try to do that. Do we want to do anything to restrict that? Absolutely not. But I think we have a responsibility to all the people in this community to keep them safe by supporting our law enforcement officers and not doing things to encourage or even giving the slightest encouragement to people that want to do the wrong things. What's legal and right, do. What's responsible, do. Don't be irresponsible and just simply say, it's my right. It isn't your right to bear guns without the necessary paperwork, restrictions, and understanding and education. Thank you.
Scott.
I'm glad to see this conversation already headed this direction. But I want to thank the chief for his comments tonight. And so I think we're in a battle in this town, and we need to waken everybody up to it. And because here's a little news feed that came off today. I haven't had time to read the entire news article, but I'll just give you the brunt of it. It says, Portland residents flee as homeless fill the neighborhood and parks, and crime surges, infinite final straws. So this whole defund the police movement is wrong in every aspect. What we heard tonight in the public comment, just another soft-sided means of defund the police. We can't do that. Our town, we're at a critical point here where anyone that has lived here for a long period of time, I've been here close to 40 years, we see this occurring in our town. We see the homelessness, we see, and when we say homelessness, I kind of like to not use that word, because some of these people are homeless, and need help. They need mental health. They need, they need help. A vast number of these people are thugs and criminals and people that are going around causing strife on law-abiding citizens in their community. I've felt the effects of it at my office. I've seen and talked to other businesses in town that are having the same effect. We're having to get cameras. We're having to clean up the most dirty, foul, leftover materials from these folks, whether it's drugs and needles and, weapons and trash, and they come on to private property and deface it. It's not a good thing. In the article, they talk about businesses having to shut down. So we have the crime, and our police officers are out working, and there's priority of crimes that they have to respond to, of course, from the worst crimes, on down. So they don't have time to come out and maybe hit, the lesser severity crimes because they're busy taking care of the more heavy-handed stuff. And we can't defund our police or not give them the tools and the money and the support to maintain that, because otherwise we're going to slip down this crack and we're going to end up like a lot of other cities in this state and in other states in the nation. And once that grasp gets a strong enough hold, it's almost like a point of no return. I don't know. I don't see where some of these cities can even come out of it. The costs are horrendous. So I'm in firm support of, this Measure P coming up is a means to take care of ourselves. And this is drastically important. Now, the police department is, the crime and that kind of thing is getting kind of put on the forefront, and it's very important, but it also is going to help us in a whole lot of other aspects of the town. Getting a pool, being able to give our employees proper, pay for their jobs, and to increase, COLA raises as they come, and not, have to sit back and look at these employees and see 10 years or 11 years of no COLA raise. That's not acceptable. But I just want to reaffirm that we as a community have to, what's that? 13 years? Oh, wait, so 13 years, I might be off on that. But we need to take charge of it now. We need to be working as a community to keep our city clean, to push back against this I don't know what to call it. It's a change in society. And if we want to maintain a healthy, safe, clean city, and we need to be working on it. And our police department is our first line of defense. I'm a staunch Second Amendment supporter. The right to keep and bear arms says there's no, I don't budge on that in the slightest. The chief hit it on the head. There's anyone that wants to become a CCW carrier or law-abiding citizens, there is and has been avenues for them to do that, so there's not a lack of opportunity for people to do that. So that's not a question. So anyway, I just want people to be aware. I'll talk more about some of these things, but I can tell you from a personal standpoint, I've experienced it, and in talking to other businesses in town, electrician to do my lighting, and another individual to do the cameras, what they tell me is they're weeks behind to get to me because the need is there for other businesses in town. And it's not just businesses, it's private dwellings, So these folks are opportunists. They will take advantage of you in any way that they can. Anyway, so that's my story. And
I would like to add something here, if I may. About 2 weeks ago, I came into work. As some of you know, we open pretty early, and there is this guy in front of my office door laying on the sidewalk right in front of my door. I call the police department, don't know whether he's dead, alive, or what. I went up to him and got within maybe 3 feet of him. And this is happening, and when I'm talking to, so I decided I was going to go get some more surveillance outside. You can't find anybody to do it because we have so many wrong things happening in this community when people don't care. And that's what I asked him when they finally, the officer Oakers got him up. God bless him, he was a good man, got him up. And the only thing he could do was, let me take you to Denny's, I'll get you something to eat. I wanted to kick his butt. I wanted to say, what made you come here? Why? And I was angry. And we have good police officers who care about everybody. And he went to go out of his own pocket to go buy him breakfast. We have good police officers.
we have fantastic police officers, and we need a few more, and we need to stay vigilant and stay on top of what's going on in our community.
You're up.
I can't follow that.
I have one follow, a small one, but man, that was pretty good.
But as I said in the beginning of the meeting, I mean, you laid out your case very well, Chief, so people know what your requirement is. I'm impressed, and I see the requirement. I see that we need to increase the staffing in our police department. So, and that's what we are pushing for Measure P, so that we can have that additional money to support those 8 or 10 police officers you need to recruit. So, and apart from that, I'm happy KFC opened their doors.
I can't get in, it's always busy.
Hope they would be a permanent anchor in that place. Most importantly, I was talking to the franchise owner, and she said there are going to be 40 part-time employees at that place. So that's a good addition, job additions to our community. So I'm glad they opened their doors finally. That's all I have. Thank you.
My joke was when I came into Park, and I didn't realize that you guys had now put a KFC arrow sign outside of the tree in order to point people to the infamous KFC line. So, ditto on that. And we'll be there tomorrow morning. Isabel, I got your text message. Just want to confirm. So another great meeting. I apologize, we ran a little long. Who had 8 o'clock? Because can I go on 19 minutes in order to make sure who gets the winner one tonight? Nobody. See, Ron's not here.
I said an hour and a half.
You would have won that one. But I'm going to make it real simple. You heard from the chief. You heard from your fellow council members. You heard from all of us. And I guess I'll finally say this to anyone who, gives credence to some thoughts. Seems pretty pathetic when we start talking about the idea of taking money out of our parks and developing our children and developing their motor skills and their social skills and making their lives more valuable and encouraging the city to offer classes to arm people.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's not the city of Ridgecrest. That's not what the city is. That's not what its citizens are. And with that, that's all I'll say. You're not who we are. Have a good day.
Thank you, Mayor.